Hello, friends. Welcome back. Um, it is like so gorgeous outside. It is probably in the 70s right now. Okay. And that's amazing because normally it gets to this temperature by this point in the year in New York, but it has been a long, cold, like winter and spring with no breaks. Okay. It was just like colder. I've been back in this area for 7 years, and this was the longest, coldest winter that we have had since I came back here. So yeah, so there's something different about the seasons, and it's creating changes in nature. And I hope that you spend enough time outside to realize this, like, or just by certain things that would annoy you in your environment. Like, I know normally when it starts to be springtime and it's staying warmer, that there's always spider webs. Like when you walk out to your car and you're not paying attention and you just like walk through them, it'll just be like one spider web, one strand of the web that you can't see. And then they're always on your little side mirrors. Well, that hasn't really been happening this year, but I have been seeing, have you ever seen like the little pods of all the baby spiders that are they're kind of hanging out together in this web until they get big enough or old enough to go and spread out and cast their webs everywhere. But when they're so small, you can just like crush them all in an instant. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I really try to just be at peace with the things around me because I realize that we are humans living in a natural world and that it is not the spider's decision to like cast their webs wherever they do. So, but I also look to it as a sign of balance. And I have noticed that when I come out here, like as soon as I open the door, all of these insects just start flying around. And some of them are mosquitoes, and some of them just look like mosquitoes. As a matter of fact, what they remind me of are those little, what are those little creatures that you can grow in the water? Sea monkeys. Have you ever had one of those, like when you were a kid? I had this little like sea monkey kit, and I don't know how, but I guess the eggs come dried and you add them to water and then they start to grow and they don't really do anything. But there are these bugs that whenever I see them, they kind of look like mosquitoes, but more so they look like the baby sea monkeys after they hatch. But these bugs have wings, so I don't know what they're there for. But I feel like because it's taken so long to warm up, that all these bugs are just now crowded around the environment in which they're like being born in. And so it already kind of warmed up a little bit, and this happened once, but now it's happening again because it all got colder again, and now it's warming up again. So it's like nature balances itself. So I see that there are a bunch more baby spiders in my garage, and I'm like, oh my gosh, either I can destroy them all, or I can sort of let nature take its course and balance out this aggressive bug population. And I'm telling you, like in New York, we don't have a lot of bugs that are bad for you or stinging or whatever. But I was reading Revelations yesterday, the book of Revelations. I'm going to keep reading it. And in that, they talk about like these locusts and what they look like and how they have stingers on their tails, like scorpions and things like that. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, we have to look into our surroundings more for symbolism of what is going on so that we can have better understanding of what we're meant to do in our own lives, because we do not go by the seasons, right? Our modern day humans, we don't go by the seasons, because if we did, I think that we would arrange our work schedules more around like the sun schedule. When it starts to get dark at 4:30 in the afternoon and you're just like still at work, and then you go into work before the sun actually comes up because it doesn't come up until like 8 in the morning at those times. And it's like you're not supposed to feel all spry in the darkness, okay? So I think that because we are somewhat animal as a human, we respond to these light cycles, and you have to know how to move with it in order to be your healthiest self, okay? So try to, if things in your environment, listen, we're never satisfied, not for more than 5 seconds at a time, okay? Because everybody wants it to be warmer. Then, as soon as it's warmer, then the bugs come out, or it's too hot, or you're like sweating through your nice work clothes, or whatever. It's like that we have very little satisfaction in this life because humans are always going to want more. So, when you promise somebody something like, I'll never do that again, or when somebody promises you like this great idea that they have in the moment that they're feeling it, it's like you can almost guarantee that It's not going to happen the way that they say because they're being inspired in the moment. And you know what that feels like. Okay. So it's like, be careful with what you say because you're creating these promises in other people's minds that, and to yourself, that if you don't come through with those things, you're going to feel like a failure or you just, people are going to not trust you as much. So just, just be patient with yourself and with the people around you and don't make such like huge judgment calls on somebody just based on the fact that they were very inspired in a moment and that then in order to bring that inspiration back up, it doesn't just happen just because you feel like it should. Okay, this is why like relationships go on for way too long or people stay in jobs for way too long or whatever. It's because they felt inspired to do something, but then because they don't continue to feel that inspiration, they're holding on, we are all holding on to things that are meant to pass. And a lot of it is because that's just what the modern world is based upon. The birds are so loud. That's what I'm talking about too, is like the birds have been excessively um, active in larger groups than what I'm used to seeing. So I think that that's also in response to the excessive bugs. Okay. So you have to realize that all these things happen. When there's little changes, you might not notice it because it was a year ago or many years ago. Um, since the last time that you saw a cycle like that. But you know so much more, or you have access to so much more knowledge than it seems. Like when somebody looks up the weather, my kids do that. They're like, I want to look up the weather. I'm like, it's raining right now. You know what the weather is. You can easily tell just by looking at the sky or like feeling what it feels like outside. You know what the patterns are going to be like today. So I find it I find it frustrating and interesting and a little bit funny that we're always looking for something more than what we already know because we like we want to be proven wrong because we're so used to being proven wrong. Okay? So it's like we're trying to look for some sort of external validation outside of ourselves that helps to prove either what we already know or what we don't want to know, but we already know. Okay? So so I am going to really try to put more of my investment with recording videos into reading the Bible in its completion in its entirety because what I like about it is the fact that it's so many little books. Okay, and that's my thing is like if I have one thing that seems like there's no end to it or there's not nothing that like breaks it up like as far as considering what I would want to do as a career. That's why I chose the army, was because I knew that if I had to dedicate myself to something until retirement, you only have to stay in for 20 years to retire in the military. And your environment switches all the time. Your rank switches all the time. Or, just in a semi consistent pattern to where you know that if you're being treated like crap because you just got into a job, you don't know how long it's going to take in order to move up to the next step or how people are going to rotate around you to where you might have a better environment like a year from now. But in the military, there is a standard structured way on how to gain promotions. There's sort of a known fact of like if you've been stationed in one place for a long time, how to gain movement, right? You can like call your branch manager and all these different things. Well, the civilian world doesn't allow for that, but I couldn't stay in the military just because I couldn't keep my weight down well enough. And what that tells me, because now I have finally come to a balance with my weight and my eating and my activities and stuff. I am trying so much less than I was in the past in order to stay healthy. It's like I barely put any effort into it. There's just some very regular things that I do on a daily basis that I know them internally now. So I don't have to go to like a food app, or track these things on like a Fitbit or anything like that. It's like when you release some control, and you listen to what's guiding you and you look to your external environment to validate that, you find such a quicker path to your answers than you do otherwise. There is a train whistle. So I don't know if it's picking up on the microphone, but there's just a lot of activity and movement going around, a lot of distracting noises. So I'm just going to leave it off at this, and I'm going to get back to reading Martha Beck's The Way of Integrity, and then the Bible and some tarot readings. Okay, I love you. See you soon. Bye.